Hi, this is Susan Diol, and you are listening to the Quantum Leap Podcast.
This is Mason Alexander Park, and you are listening to the Quantum Leap Podcast.
Hi, this is Manrissa Lee. You're listening to the Quantum Leap Podcast.
Hi, this is Ernie Hudson, and you're listening to the Quantum Leap Podcast.
Hi, this is Caitlin Bassett, and you are listening to the Quantum Leap Podcast.
This is Raymond Lee, and you are listening to the Quantum Leap Podcast.
Hello, Leapers, and welcome back to the Quantum Leap Podcast. We don't know what we're doing because Hayden's computer's broken. So we're trying to figure it out. We just ain't whistling Dixie here.
Hi, I'm Chris. Hi. How you doing? So maybe a walk behind the scenes to everybody that might be watching this now. Albie and I have been spinning our wheels for the last, 25 minutes or so, saying, well, if we can't do the show that we wanted to do, what show should we do? And Albie keeps throwing out like wonderful idea after wonderful idea. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't know. Like, what if you had the whole internet and cameras and TV production at your disposal and you still didn't know what to do?
2,000 subscriber special. 2,000 subscribers special.
Okay.
We hit 2,000 subscribers. So this is great.
I like it.
This is a good time to think about the Quantum Leap Podcast from the beginning till now. How about that?
QL2K. How's that? 2,000
subscribers. That doesn't sound like a lot because people have millions. But 2,000 people, if 2,000 people were in like a high school gymnasium, all listening to you and me and Matt and Allison talk and Hayden and John and Brian and everyone else we get to help us, that'd be pretty cool.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it. And really it's, that's the good thing about YouTube channels and podcasting. It's like, you don't need a big audience. You just need an audience.
Yeah,
so
a niche.
There might be people who like us.
Yeah, we've got.
Or they like you, and they're just putting up with me. I don't know.
I think they're just like fast forwarding through me until they get to the interviews. But then when I'm late getting the after show out, they're already watching the interviews. So, although we get some views, and you guys get some views too. You and Matt, your audio podcast on YouTube.
I'm surprised that our podcast does anything on the YouTube. Like at first I was wondering why you even put it up on YouTube because it's a podcast. Like there's no visual. I've even seen in the comments saying, why isn't there a visual element to this? And I said, because that's the Quantum Leap Podcast after show. That's
some people say that.
It's the visual element.
Yeah. But I think because if you're a YouTube subscriber, like YouTube Premium, like I am, you can play a video and then just close your phone and the audio keeps playing. So it's just like an easier way to find podcasts, maybe?
Yeah, when my phone goes to sleep, my audio stops on YouTube. It's a pain in the ass. So,
but if you pay for it.
Oh, I'm not paying for it. Oh. But actually, I think my wife pays for YouTube Premium because she likes to watch a certain show. And
commercials suck too. So I hate commercials.
Yeah. So, and she'll pay for anything. So, it's funny because you talk about that. So if we're going to talk about being 2,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
I had no idea what you intended for the YouTube channel. When we started with the new series, with the revival, we were all so excited. And you know me, I am like siloed. I am segmented. So the only thing I think of is the podcast because I'm the audio guy. I'm the radio guy. So when you said that you were going to do a YouTube show, I said, okay, that's great. And, it'll supplement. I did not think that you were going to do a 4 to 5 hour extravaganza every freaking week. Like you're insane. It's
a lot.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's its own show. You call it the Quantum Leap Podcast after show just to be nice, but it's your show.
Well, my original idea when I heard
what was the genesis? Give us the genesis.
Well,
you see what I did there, right? That's quantum
Genesis. Yeah, parts 1 and 2. I'll give you both parts. Originally, what it was we've had server trouble here and there, and there was a point to where we were missing like 4 or 5 episodes. Like nobody had them, and they were just gone. And that's like a lot of work that I did and everybody else did in history and stuff like that. But luckily, the fan community got together and said, "Oh, I have a copy of this. I have a copy of that." And they sent it to us. I'm not sure of the names, but I was like, we have to archive them somewhere that is a little bit more reliable or at least redundant. So I thought, well, I'll upload them to archive.org because they're ours and we can do that. And then I was like, oh, I'll just upload them to YouTube so people might listen to them on YouTube. So I started doing that, I believe. And then we got news of the new show coming out. The what do they call it now? Not the reboot,
revival series,
not the sequel.
Revival
series.
Revival.
So we got word that was coming out, and I was excited. And I wanted to produce a YouTube show of you and Matt and Allison doing the Quantum Leap podcast, kind of like you ever watch Howard Stern on whatever E or whatever channel he's on now?
It's funny you say that because I listened to Stern my entire life, and it always felt weird watching him on E.
Really?
Because in my mind, it's a radio show.
Yeah.
How weird is that? So it shows you how, how siloed I am.
So that's what I want to do. But you were like, no, I don't want to do that. Allison was like, I don't think so. And Matt was like, well, they don't want to do it. So I was like, so I guess we'll just put the audio shows up on YouTube and that'll be it. But I wanted to do an after show because I'm a fan of the Ready Room and there's shows like Walking Dead and all kinds of other after shows. And this was all what was happening in my brain. I watched the guy who's like Egotastic Fun Time now, but he was like watching the Orville before. He had like Seth MacFarlane on his show for the Orville and like all the stars and all the actors. And I was thinking to myself, wow, wouldn't that be cool if we could get like an actor from the new Quantum Leap series on our video podcast? That would be sweet. Hi, Penelope.
Thanks, sweet kid. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you, sweet kid.
And so I was like, well, that would be cool. So I wanted to do something like he was doing. And I was like, well, you guys don't want to do video. So I was like, okay, I think I got to do it. So then I just figured I'd do it. And the first show I did for it, Matt is amazing. He getting us interviews and making connections and all these people for this brand new show. And he got great guests. So I was like, okay, we got to record the interviews video. And then we got our platform that we use for video. They were coming out good. And like the shows got better and Hayden and me just seemed to work. And I was just going to have me and one guest host every show and like kind of rotate. But then Hayden seemed to be like a good like counterpoint to me because usually we like different things and dislike different things. And so then we had the third rotating host. And I really didn't plan on doing this. It just kind of happened. But now I enjoy it and look forward to it.
I mean, and that's where you and I are different because I always have like an idea in my mind of how things should be. And when you deviate from that, I start to get I get Twitter-pated. So when you said, oh, let's do a video element to the podcast, I don't have a camera. I don't have a setup. I don't have a light. I don't, it's just going to distract me from actually producing the podcast. And the podcast is what I know how to do. And that's what I want to do. And like, I get into a panic.
Yeah.
It's only very recently because of the nature of my job that I've learned to accept different things and to sort of pivot away from, what I might have had in mind to accommodate reality. And I feel like you've always been better at that for me. You're just like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, but you can't, but why? You can't, but you got to produce, you got to do that. You got to do, and you're just like, yeah, okay, let's just do it. Yeah.
It just snowballed, not in the gross way, but in the like metaphorical way. Is that right?
Wow. Just wow.
And
poor Penelope.
And then by the end of sorry, Penelope, she's young. By the end of season 1 of the Revival series, we had, who did we have on the first roundtable? We had
Ray, Nan, and
Caitlin, right?
Yep.
That's crazy. That's good. And then looking back over that, we've also had Mason on and Ernie on. And of course, showrunners, writers, producers, guest stars. I mean, when I look at like what I wanted the show to be, the show now and the channel and the podcast is like so much more. And I think it's a lot to do with just how giving and kind everybody involved in the actual Quantum Leap is towards us.
I feel like there's like a perfect storm of factors in that.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, we've been on the air, and I say we because I'm Johnny Come Lately. You started this thing 10 years ago. So
at least
I feel
you got to
like
figure it out now. It's more because last year was 10 years or 11.
Okay,
not,
so but I feel like we were maybe the oldest
87
established
years.
fan show. Right? He died at 33. But I feel like because of your hard work doing the classic series, we had the pedigree for years and years, including talking to Don, including talking to Deborah, including talking to Scott. So when the new show came on, they wanted to promote it as much as they could, I'm sure, because it's a new endeavor. And they are in a different media environment where if you have, I think direct access to a fan community, it's not something that's just over there and you can ignore it or even eschew it, which I think classic TV did, traditional
write
TV
that word
did.
down.
Now they know how to embrace the fan community. So we were sort of a ready-made thing for them to go to. Plus, we had Deborah on our side. I mean, we had the trump card, Deborah Pratt. She loves you. She loves Matt. Sometimes I think she remembers my name. I've met her a couple of times at cons and stuff, but she knows you. She knows Matt, and she knows Rennie. And then she's like, "Oh yeah, Chris, maybe." But what I'm saying is that I think because of all of that, the media environment that we're in, the access that we had to Deborah and the goodwill that she has towards us, and their need to get the word out to some kind of established community, it just put us in the catbird seat. We were just in the right place at the right time, So yeah. I thank you for your hard work and all that. And I think that it's a combination of the work that we've all been doing that's allowed us to be here. Like we have the privilege now of being in this position. And it's funny because so many podcasts toil away on the shows that they love or the topic that they love, and they'll only ever get so far because it's such a niche thing. And we were like that for a long time. We were a 30-year canceled TV show. The lightning just happened to strike for us. They said, "Oh, let's bring it back." And here we were. We were still going. So,
Yeah, perfect storm. I like that. Yeah. It's true. Yeah, Deborah is amazing. I think that was like one of our first tests of like video version of what we do. Was the interview we did with her, maybe? Because that was before the series premiered, so she couldn't really talk too much about it. She has absolutely loved me. She'll just message me out of the blue, ask me a question about Quantum Leap or just how I'm doing. She's always curious about where Rennie is in her Quantum Leap original series watch.
Oh, how cute.
And whenever we're talking, she'll ask her about it and stuff. And it makes me feel, I don't know what the word is. Maybe you can help me with that. You're good at words, but not proud. But when Deborah Pratt is talking to Rennie about Quantum Leap, it makes me feel like more important or like I accomplished something. If that makes sense. I don't know what that is, but I just love that everybody is so embracing of us, and we're not always, love everything. We're not always kind about everything, but they have stuck with us even when we've had opinions that aren't the best on different things.
You know what? As a creator, marginal creator, I feel like when you put your stuff out there, but when you put your stuff out there, it becomes the audience's thing. So whenever I do something and I put it out, I say to myself, does this accomplish what I wanted it to accomplish artistically? And if the answer is yes, then that's all I need. And then you can bash it all you want. You know what? Sometimes to me, that's a lot of fun. So it's like, because then we can have a talk about it. I can get a different perspective about it. I can get outside of my own head. And as long as you're not too precious about your grand ideas, about your art, then I think it can be like there's an edifying presence to it, that there's just some sort of thing that actually makes it better when somebody is spirited against something you might have said, or but also maybe that's the podcaster in me. I just like discussing art with people. So even if it's my own art. So when I go and I look at an episode like, oh, I don't know, the last episode that we just dropped, and I wasn't very complimentary to it during the podcast, but then we were speaking to the writer and she's like the greatest person on earth. And then I go back and I edit what I said originally before we spoke to the writer, and I feel like the world's biggest. I got to keep in mind that that was an honest reaction that I had at the time, and that she's a professional. And number one, she's writing a TV show where I'm just talking about her writing a TV show. So she already wins. But number two, maybe she'd be as receptive to a give and take. And that's where I feel like we have to like thread that needle now, because it's easy to bash a 30-year-old TV show, especially if it's something like Blood Moon, where you get Tommy Thompson on. He says, oh, yeah, that episode sucks, you know? Whereas we have people now working their asses off to create TV in real time. And we're saying, I didn't like it. Oh, we only just put, 1,000 hours into that. Sorry you didn't like it.
Yeah. I feel bad.
It's a completely different dynamic.
But if we weren't honest about what we felt, what would we be doing? We're just saying we love everything. That wouldn't be any fun or interesting, and it wouldn't be honest. And why would anybody want to listen to that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like there's a balance to be had, though. I feel like, there were aspects of the show when we first started that went a little too negative, and it was bringing the show down, if we're going to be 100% honest.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I feel like you can have criticisms, but still have a positive discussion overall. And if it turns into nothing but criticism, then what's the point? Like, why are you even doing it? Because you're not having fun. If you're not having fun, then the listener is certainly not having fun. And it turns into an uncomfortable experience for everybody. So I feel like you can be critical, but respectful. And that's even, so when we're critical, I still try to be respectful and put like the criticism in a broader context of appreciation. Maybe I'm hedging. Maybe I'm just a bullshit artist. I don't know. But,
no, but I think you realize that all these people work so hard and they're trying their best to make the best thing. And I think we both understand, like, if we don't like something, that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it didn't work for us. Right. It reminds me of something that the Mission Log guys say. They say every episode of every show is somebody's favorite, and every episode is somebody's least favorite. Right. So it's, you got to approach it like that. And it's just, as long as you can have an honest discussion about it and why you didn't like it, you can still speak to the people who, if you didn't like it, it's still maybe their favorite episode, but you can maybe bring things to them they didn't consider, or vice versa. Like, oh, I hated this freaking episode. Then I hear the writer talking about it. I'm like, well, I didn't consider that. Oh, now I can see that. And, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I was a little too, rushed to judgment or whatever. But again, it helps bring out a broader conversation. So that's to me where the heart of this whole thing is. It's just like, let's talk about it. Let's not praise it blindly or bash it relentlessly. Let's actually talk about it. So I think there was like one episode. I think there was one episode that I didn't like of the new series. And I don't even remember which one it was. And I think it had more to do about where I was in my life at the time. So like I couldn't get the endorphins from watching it. And it was more like I had to watch it to do the show. And, so I don't think it was the episode, but I still, what I did is I found the things that I did like in it, no matter how small they were. And that's what I talked about. So,
do you feel comfortable sharing that?
I don't remember which episode it was. I don't. It was before Allison left the pod.
For you to not like something. And
I know what it was. No, it was around Leap to RP. Which one was? Maybe SOS.
SOS was the battleship one with Superman.
It wasn't that one. It was around that time, but it was one episode that I probably gave a low rating to. But I think I said on the show that it was probably me because I was going through a really rough thing. at the time. So like I couldn't enjoy it even if it was the best thing in the world. But again, it might be somebody else's favorite episode. But I always try to focus on the positive because I think, if I say like, oh, that prop just ruined the whole episode for me. The guy in props is going to be heartbroken, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. I'm a TV critic kinda, and I'm not good at criticism. When I can't take it that good,
Well, it's funny because when I first started doing just my own sort of writing, a lot of it centered around doing book reviews. And I would do honest ones. Sometimes I would bash a book. Sometimes I would praise a book, just depending. But I used to do for the radio show that I did a radio segment, not really a show, but like a monthly segment. And I used to do best reads in January, every January. And I had worst read of the year on that. But after a certain amount of time, I just gave up on the worst read because I said, no matter what I think about a book, nobody sets out intending to write a bad book. Nobody sets out intending to make a bad movie. And who the heck am I to come on and say your book sucks? To me, it got to be more and more mean-spirited feeling. And maybe because the tenor of dialogue in this country was changing at that time, and I just didn't want to be part of the backward slide of civility that we are still going through right now. And it just felt to me to be increasingly against the grain of who I am, to just sit there and say, I didn't like this book and this is why. And again, if like I just said, if it was an episode, if I didn't like it, I can say I didn't like it, this is why, but these are things that I appreciate about it. It's not just like a diatribe of, oh, and this is why this is the worst thing I did this year or whatever. So
yeah, I think I remember for you, Paging Dr. Song. I think that was the one that you were not into at all, but you still tried to find the best things about it.
Yeah, and I think we made some jokes about like, like hospital drama. We did like a little promo at the beginning of the episode. And and that one, to me, it wasn't that the episode was bad. It's just a genre of TV that I just have no use for. So
yeah.
But that's the danger of Quantum Leap, I mean, look at One Strobe Over the Line. I don't especially want to see Sam in an after-school special, but that's what that episode is. So
I found parts of it sexy, One Strobe Over the Line. Like they were coked up and trying to mate. So that was interesting. But see, and then like maybe I wouldn't have liked that episode, but I did like that episode. And I think part of it is I got to talk to Tiffany Smith all about the making of the episode. And I was a fan of hers from other things too. And then a couple other people from the episode. So I probably can't separate my enjoyment of doing the podcast and the show, because like this latest episode, not the one we were going to talk about tonight, which was Nomad, but the witch one. What is it called?
A Kind of Magic.
A Kind of Magic, which doesn't feature a lot of magic in it at all. I really enjoyed the episode. I thought it was fun. And then I got to talk to everyone involved in making the episode, and it made me like the episode that much more. So I think you and I could agree that overall we like most everything about the new series, and just things here and there, but mostly positive, right? Yes? No? Really?
I'll say this.
Okay.
And no, I do like the new series. I mean, hands down. I wouldn't have the energy to talk about it if I just didn't like it.
Yeah, and I mean, work 10 hours a week editing it.
Right. I mean, at base, I do enjoy it. Every time I watch it, I have a good time. I might have episodes that I like less than others. It's only upon reflection after I'm out of the moment. But this is such a fan thing because you're just so excited to see something. You can watch it, be excited about it, and then react to it. But then just, time will give you different perspective, and maybe it'll temper some of that fanish reaction you had. And I've said this on the pod before. I tried to go back and watch season 1, and I couldn't get through some episodes because it was just the reveals that I already knew what was coming. So, but like you said, you want to focus on the positive stuff. So one thing I did love about the show from the beginning was all the characters. So you can lose yourself in that character stuff. and have fun. And it was actually nice to watch it also without having to talk about it on a podcast, because whether you know it or not, you're always on. So if you're going to be reviewing something, you can't just sit and watch it like you would another show, because you're always cognizant of, okay, formulating, what do I think about this? How am I going to express what I think about this? How far do I need to go with this? Do I need to really take this down? Do I need to build this up? Is this a great moment, a good moment, a shitty moment? You're always analyzing not just what you're watching, but everything you're watching in the context of the episode and the context of the series and the context of the legacy. So there's so much going on when I'm watching Quantum Leap that I often have a hard time, especially on a first viewing, just sinking into the show, because I'm cognizant of where it fits in my fandom above everything else at first. And then once I get over it and I can watch it a second or a third time, that's when I'm ready to be a little bit more circumspect, I don't know, or just willing to accept it for what it is, because I've gotten all of my shit out of the way. Does that happen to you? Or like, how do you, when you approach this stuff, like, what is your process?
I try to watch the episode first just for enjoyment, and try to not think about everything around it, all the meta verse of it. But I'm always thinking, oh, I got to remember to talk about that. Or, oh, that doesn't make sense because of this. Like, I remember to talk about that. So it's very difficult. But I think just from years and years, a decade or more, doing podcasts, I think I watch every TV show like that.
You're probably right. Yeah. Because I talk about other shows on other podcasts. And, you know, so I can always get on mic and be ready to discuss something I liked or something I didn't like about anything that I've watched, and at least try to give somebody a good discussion about it. And maybe that's where where you're talking about, like, that practice element. It just comes like second nature now. You just can't help it. But I feel like maybe the difference with Quantum is, like, it's my thing. So I'm a lot more on edge about saying something about Quantum Leap or analyzing an episode of Quantum Leap than, say, if I'm going to be on the For All Mankind podcast or even a Star Trek podcast. Because I love Star Trek, but Star Trek now is so huge and diverse that you can basically be a Star Trek fan and have nothing in common with a fellow Star Trek fan, because the franchise is just so big now. So you don't have to worry about the broader context as much. You can just pick and choose the stuff that you like about it and relate it to that. Where, to me, I feel like Quantum is still like a small special thing, and we're going to still relate everything to Sam and Al to some degree. Whereas you can watch Disco now, you can watch Strange New Worlds. As odd as this seems, you can watch Strange New Worlds and not think about the original series at all, because it's such its own thing in its own context in modern Trek, even though it's based on everything that came before TOS. So it's just so weird. But when I watch this Quantum, I can only think of touchstones from the original Quantum. And I feel like maybe if they had three or four other Quantum series, then you can start to diversify and say, well, it kind of, I like this, but I don't like that. Or this is my version of it, but you can have that version of it. We're not there yet with that. We're not there yet with this series.
I think we'll get there.
I don't know. I don't know if Quantum has the legs to be a multi-series show, because it's just such a small personal thing. I think they're doing good stuff. If I can say anything about the new show, they're doing a phenomenal job of expanding the idea of what we think Quantum Leap is. Because I know a lot of people, the chief thing you hear is the relationship between Sam and Al. That's one. And it's about ordinary people and small changes. So it has sort of that small personal feel to it, and that's the reason for it. It's not about sweeping historical change or events or things like that. But I feel like the new series, while it's still towing that line, is giving us leaps that have much more of a grand sense of adventure. And I don't know if that's just the benefits of modern TV and more modern sensibility in storytelling. I don't know that, the Sam and Al formula would work necessarily in today's environment. Even though I find it timeless and classic, would a 20-year-old, would that 20 something or that teenager that first saw Quantum in the 90s, would that someone that age seeing a show with that dynamic today be in any way interested in it? I don't know.
I think so. I would hope so, but who knows? I don't watch the TikToks. They would want they would want a 30-second episode with the sides cut off, Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But people complain that it's not, Scott and Dean, but it can't be. And I think if they tried to copy it and made like very, very similar to the original, I don't think it would have been as good. I like that they made it its own thing as much as they did. I really like that Allison Augustine is back as the hologram. And I think it's going to work better now that they're not dating.
I agree.
Which is weird for me to say because I was so into their relationship, but this is the first like TV relationship thing that I've been into since, oh my goodness, maybe Farscape, that I cared this much about.
I was going to say Aaron and Crichton.
Yeah. Like when they were having troubles, I would be crying and worried and going, oh my God, what's going to happen? And then there's some time travel going on and tears flowing. I'm even welling up thinking about it. But like that's the last time I got that feeling about a relationship like I did with Ben and Addison, because I was all in. But after everything that happened, I'm getting glassy eyed thinking about it. I really like Quantum Leap. And I was angry with Addison for a while. I love Caitlin, of course, and but they had to have this thing go on to have this other story. I love what is her name? Hannah Carson, the character. Eliza.
Yeah. Eliza. God, we're
Taylor?
the worst fans ever. Eliza Taylor, yes.
Taylor. Yeah, I love her and Ben too. So, but when I'm watching Addison and Tom like playing kissy face, it makes me feel icky. So I don't know.
If I had to point to something I like best about the second season, it's the shakeup, the Ben and Addison shakeup. I loved the hurt in the beginning. I loved seeing them bring that whole relationship down to the studs and rebuilding it from the ground up. And I feel like in season 1, we were just thrust into the fact that they were a couple, and it didn't seem that earned to me. They were a couple because we were told they were a couple. Mm-hmm. We didn't get to see them build up to that. We didn't really get to feel them being together. We were just told that they were in love. The only time I ever really felt their chemistry of their relationship genuinely was in
Judgment Day.
Yes.
I love that. Another Margarita Matthews episode.
Yeah, because we got to see it from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And now I feel like where they're at the end of A Kind of Magic is so earned, because we've seen them go through hell and come back from it. And I like them better as friends. I got to be honest with you. I love Ben and Hannah, and I like Addison and Tom. I think that they're good too. So and I love the fact that now Addison's back and they've come to a place where they can at least approach each other again on new terms. Mm-hmm. They're still trying to figure out what that looks like, but we get to experience that with them because we're trying to figure it out too. So it's a much better place for the characters to be. It's a much more satisfying place.
I understand that relationship a lot. I have one of my ex-fiancés. We were together for like 5 years. I think This was the late 90s, early 2000s. I'm a little old. But she's still one of my besties to this day. You know, we know everything about each other and where all the freckles and warts are or whatever. But we would still, you know, drive an hour to change a tire for the person kind of thing. So I get that relationship. And I think that's one of the reasons that I like the new dynamic between Ben and Addison, because I feel that like there's love there. They still love each other, but it's not a hot and heavy romantic love. It's more of a, I know who you are. I love the person you are, and we can be the best of friends. It's still going to be hard, I'm sure, for Ben.
It's going to be hard for Addison too. I mean, they showed you how hard it could be, I think, in the rom-com episode, the one with Neil. I always forget the name.
Yeah, I'm not the best with names yet.
Yeah, but because they were interacting like they would have when they were a couple, because they were both fans of him, and it's all about watching the movies together. Now we have 5 more Neil movies to watch. Ben is just like, you know, and
that moment,
you know, because that's where they've always been, and it's just natural for them to interact that way. And so, wait a minute, you know, so it really, again, it's like little moments like that when they turn the paradigm inside out and make something new out of it. That's what I like. I find that I like that when it comes to TV series in general, like when they have episodes that are outliers that present the characters in ways that you're not used to seeing them. I find those episodes to be really fascinating. You know, my favorite Voyager episode is the one with the revisionist history and the doctor and all that. I love that one. There's a great episode of Supernatural. It's almost like their Groundhog Day episode where Dean just keeps dying, and at the end, Sam is a completely different character. He was so badass, and I loved that episode. But you know what I mean? So anything that can take them out of the usual formula and present the people that you like or love, but in a new light. And I feel like this whole season has been doing that for Ben and Addison.
What do you think of the theory about this season's going to be undone? Because there's a lot of Wizard of Oz references, Alice in Wonderland references, like different.
Can you elaborate on that? I don't recall the Wizard of Oz or Alice in Wonderland references.
I can for one of them. The other one's in next week's episode, but
never mind.
The one in this week's episode was Ian's aunt was named Dorothy, I think, or something like that.
Oh, okay. I think that's just a coincidence.
Great something. Yeah, but when you add up Dorothy, the other thing, and another thing, there's stuff going on. So, I mean, who knows?
So, like, I can't wait until we queue up season 2, episode 1, and line it up with the beginning of Dark Side of the Moon and see how they actually mesh together, right?
That would be awesome.
So, right. I don't know. Awesome. I would honestly, we can curse. It's YouTube, right?
Yeah, sure.
I would hate that because it would take everything that I feel like I just got through raving about. Like it finally feels earned. It finally feels real. It finally feels like we're seeing something genuine on screen that isn't just thrust upon us. To undo that, to go back to the old stuff just because, that's a cop-out to me. That's a cheat. Like, you want your characters to grow and change and to be in the reality that they should be in, not one that's just manufactured or, quote, fixed by a leap. Do you want to elaborate on the theory that you had?
Oh, well, yeah, but I know you don't like the undo ending. You hate Year of Hell, but I love Year of Hell.
Year of Hell is the ultimate cop-out. It's the ultimate freaking reset button.
I love it. I love it. You hate it. Originally, they were going to do the whole season.
They were going to do the whole season. They should have. And
that would have been great.
Yeah. Wow.
We can talk. Well, that'd be Battlestar.
Do you think anybody even knows what we're talking about? Except maybe there are 7 people who know Year of Hell.
I'm sure.
And I don't even watch Voyager, and I know Year of Hell. So I mean,
that's one of my faves. But the moment of I trust the writers, so I'm sure they're going to do. They have an idea and they know what they're doing. And one of the reasons, like you just talked about it, was that scene where Ben and Addison, for that few moments, forgot that they were hating each other, and they fell back into that relationship that they had.
Lonely Hearts Club.
Lonely Hearts Club.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before on television or in a movie. That little bit, that little couple beats of that happening to a couple. I've never seen that. And I watch rom-coms like crazy. I watch, series with love and romance and relationships, and I've never seen that moment. And I really like that moment. And there's a lot of moments that I think the writers put in here. The theory that I heard, I didn't come up with this theory, but the theory I heard, and then it made sense as I'm watching it, is that for some reason, whatever happened at the end of season 1 that everybody was freaking out about, did he come back? Didn't he? Like all of this is in his head and it's a dream, like Alice in Wonderland or Wizard of Oz. And at the end of all this whole story arc is he's going to appear in the imaging chamber or whatever it is. Well, the accelerator.
The accelerator. Yeah.
The accelerator. Yeah. So, and then none of it would have happened.
So
but
it's
also,
like the Last Temptation of Christ. It was all a dream.
I never watched that. So,
well, I mean, but what I'm saying again,
Alice.
it's another cop out. And like to me, if it was like who shot JR, like it was all a dream that Pam was having, or whatever, Bobby was dead, or whatever. I don't know. That was something they did on Dallas. Like a whole season became a dream because they wanted to bring Patrick Ewing back. So Bobby Ewing, I don't know, Patrick Duffy. Thank you, Scuzzlebutt. Patrick Duffy for a leg.
That's the leg. I was going to say that. That's funny, Patrick Duffy for a leg.
Like to me, that would be like the worst possible.
Really?
Like, are you? That's
so
when
we
I
got to
would be
do
done.
that show together.
I'm done with Quantum Leap. If that happens, I'm done with the Revival series.
But then Addison and Ben are back together again.
I don't care about that. I think they're together now, and I like it better.
I don't know. They might not do that.
Like,
they might not do that.
Do
but
they have to be romantically
do
involved? Do they have to be romantically involved for their relationship to be satisfying to watch? I
would
think
say
it's
no.
much more satisfying now.
I agree,
because they're doing more than pining for one another.
But that episode, the Old West episode, what was it? Salvation or Bust? Mm-hmm. That moment where they're like, she's teaching him how to shoot a gun.
Yeah.
Right. So it's weird.
I don't. You know what? I'd rather them have genuine moments of fighting with each other, like we saw in the UFO episode, and like we saw in Lonely Hearts Club, than just that again to have another version of them wanting to jump each other's bones and not being able to.
So that brings up Hannah.
I don't know.
That brings up Hannah. Do you have the fear that Hannah is going to end up not being who she's presented to be at the moment?
You know what the thing is?
What? Because she's too perfect for him, right?
There are so many theories out there. I love the Hannah character, and I love Ben and Hannah together. I've said this on the main pod. I like Ben and Hannah 10 times more than I ever liked Addison and Ben. Like, I think that they have much more chemistry together, maybe because we've seen them from the sort of like the genesis of their relationship. And even though it's only been a couple episodes, did it again.
Genesis.
Drink. I think that I just am so happy where that relationship is now and the way it's been presented that I don't care to know or speculate where it might go, because I'm just sort of reveling in the moment. And that's what I want. I want to keep reveling in the moment. I don't want to know if there's a twist. I don't want to know if there's a letdown or disappointment, or because then it would ruin the vibe for me. And I'm really liking the vibe.
I think Dean and Martin are doing amazing. Are those like basically the people in charge of deciding what happens?
Yeah, I would say so.
Say, right?
Yeah.
I really like what they did, because Ben and Addison together like they are now, I think is much better. And it's almost like they planned it from the beginning, because like if they were never in a romantic relationship and they never had that bond, I don't know if the friendship would be as deep moving forward as it would have been as like they're just work colleagues. You know, that's just like Jen jumping in there with Ben or Ian jumping in there with Ben. But Addison and Ben have this connection, you know, this invisible tether for the rest of their lives. Because for that many years, they were each other's person. So I think in a way, it's genius that they, you know, Martin and Dean got handed this story from the original script we read, and the original idea for the show, and they were going with that, and they had to change that into what they have now. And I think it's genius what they did, because I think that's the closest you could get to replicating the bond that Sam and Al had with Ben and Addison, because there's like they would die for each other, even if they're not romantically connected right now. They would still, I believe, die for each other. They have that connection. So I think it's genius what they've done so far with that.
I feel like, and maybe you want to cut this if you think it's too much. I feel like Caitlin, when we spoke to her about season 2, pretty much said without saying they're doing the show now that they always wanted to do, and they're done being strapped with the show that was given to them for the first season. That might be too harsh. She didn't say it in those terms, but that to me was the context of what she was saying. And I think that everybody on set is just so much happier with where they are now, because it's more of a choice than a task. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think Dean has said as much in different interviews. I don't know if it was in interviews or if it was before or after interviews we did with him. But
I don't want to put things in anybody's mouth. You know what I mean? So it's just like,
it all gets Swiss cheesed in my brain. But
right.
A lot of people have been vocal about wanting to do this show, but they were handed this show. So how do you get from that show to this show? And I just love the way they did it.
Yeah, because they're trying to respect at least some of what came before, and it's all part of the character's backstory. So we have to build on where we were, but let's make a clean break. Oh, it's been 3 years. Well, that's perfect, because it gives everybody time to reset. It's like it's a reboot of the reboot, honestly, and it doesn't negate anything that came before. Much like this series. For people who don't like it, they think that it completely contradicts Quantum, but it's a new series with a new build, with a new Ziggy. But it's to me that there's no disconnect there. It doesn't have to be the same. And I think you and I started out this conversation discussing why it couldn't be the same. It's just a different TV environment now. And if it were trying to be the same, we would just compare it negatively. So go out and be your own thing. So I feel like all of it is still like a contiguous universe that I can find touchstones in the new series that relate back to the old series. And I frequently do that on the podcast because I can't help it. Because everything I watch with Quantum Leap, I got Sam in the back of my mind in that freaking bar in Kochberg. And, everything that happened since then is colored by mirror image. So no matter what they put on screen, I'm always going to be putting it in the context of Dr. Sam Beckett never returned home and why I think that is. So that's why the most intriguing thing this season has been Tom's errant thing. Do you think leaping, like the engine of leaping, is sacrifice? Sacrifice to what? Sacrifice to who? Where do you get that from? And it also puts Sam's choice. To me, Sam made a choice. His choice might have been a sacrifice in some respects, but it was his choice to keep leaping. The bartender told him 1,000,000 times, you will do this only as long as you want to. You can leap home anytime you want. So with that as, sort of the underpinnings of what he's doing and why he's doing it, if he never returned home, obviously it's because he chose to never return home. It's not like he couldn't. It's not like he was trapped. You will do this only as long as you want to. Obviously, he never stopped wanting to. So where's the sacrifice there? Maybe there's a little sacrifice because he's giving up one life, but he's giving up one life for another life. It's not like he's giving up one life and lamenting the loss of it. I feel like he's just going on and on and on. So whenever I think of Sam, I think he's out there. I think he's watching Ben. I still swear to God that the woman in Salvation of Bust was Sam that shot Martinez.
100%. Yeah, Frankie was Sam.
Day. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
People say no. Everybody says no. I say wait and see.
Yeah, in my head canon, we had Margarita on, and
she
meant to ask
wasn't there,
her that,
and then she was there. She wasn't there, and then she was there at the perfect time. And the way Ben looked at Margarita,
goddammit.
Yeah. Well, we can just message her or something, but not right now. She's probably late. Yeah. It's late now. But yeah, and then Ben looked at Frankie, And I think Ben saw something different than we saw. I'm just saying.
All right.
I was always had the original series in the back of my mind when I was watching season 1 of the new version of Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
But I think Judgment Day was like a turning point for me when I was like, okay, this is its own thing for real. Not in a bad way. Some people think it's a bad way. I think it's in a good way because I really enjoyed every single beat of Judgment Day. That was Margarita Matthews. I loved every little beat of it. I loved the whole Back to the Future 2 going back within their own timeline thing. And I just, after that moment on, and then the 3 timelines and the 3 Ians, I was like, this is nothing to do with the original series. I'm going to stop comparing it. And the whole of season 2 so far, 8 episodes, I've just enjoyed it for what it is on its own. And I don't even think about that. But that being said, they brought back Beth, and I love that. And I almost think that was like a gift that the producers gave to the fans, the longtime fans, you know, because you didn't need Beth there. You didn't really need her there, but we love Beth. And I think one of our biggest views of stuff we dropped was the title was Beth is Back, was her interview with Susan Dial. That like shot crazy up. I think a lot of people love Beth from the original series. And, you know, there's no Al anymore, of course, because Dean's gone. And Sam Scott's not going to have anything to do with the new series. So they did the best they could, and they gave us Beth. And, like, I think that was like a thank you to the fans. Yeah. And they name-checked, Donna? And they keep talking about Sam and different things.
They name-checked Donna in This Took Too Long.
Yeah, did they say her name? Or did they say Sam's wife?
No, they said his wife. They said his wife. I don't think they ever said Donna.
Yeah, so they could have opened the door. Wife. They could have opened the door for having him had a different wife if necessary. But
I think that they would keep it to whether they bring Mimi back or they bring Terry back.
My vote's for Terry, but I'll take either one of them.
I'll take either one. Honestly, I mean, both. I love Star-Crossed and I love Terry Hatcher, but whenever I think of Donna, I think of Mimi.
Yeah,
I know that I joke because Terry Hatcher was just, you know, so gorgeous. But I think whenever I think of Donna, I think of the leap back and I think of Mimi. So.
It's difficult for me to not think of Terry Hatcher.
We're such dudes.
Yeah, I can't help it. I can't help it. But what do you think of the continuing? Because like Dean and Martin, obviously, for some reason, keep talking about the original series. Why do you think they're doing that? Do you think to keep like new viewers like curious about the old show, or just in case they have to use the old mythology for some kind of special event episode, like season 3 cliffhanger?
Here's the thing. I don't. When you talk about Dean and Martin talking about the original series, can you give me context for that?
Oh, like putting Sam's wife in there, bringing back Beth. Talking about.
Oh, you mean like in the context of the actual series of what we see on screen, not like interviews behind the scenes.
Right.
I don't know. I think that they do that because it costs them nothing to do. Mm-hmm. It gives connective tissue to the legacy series for us who are watching, who can get it. Mm-hmm. And it's brief enough where if you don't know what they're talking about, it'll likely go over your head anyway, or it might encourage you to go seek the old story. I mean, really, beyond the first couple episodes, I think it was maybe beyond the pilot, the fact that Janice was Al's daughter was that's just the only really nod that we got. And the fact that the computer is named Ziggy, I don't know that they have ever been that beholden to the original series aside from some references. So to me it's nice to have those touchstones, but I feel like the show doesn't even really need them anymore because they've established their own thing now. Mm-hmm. But yes, I would love to see Scott show up. I would love more Beth. I would love Donna to come in. I'd love Sammy Joe somehow to come in because that's all for us. Mm-hmm. And how could that be bad? You know, do I think it's necessary? No. Would I welcome it? Sure. So I think that they keep that hope alive, because why not? Do you think that they would go big with it though? Because they've done so much to distance themselves or to make their own show.
It's one of those things to where not us, but I think a lot of the fan community and like the casual fans, they always want Scott back on the show for some reason, right? And it's almost like when Shatner almost had the opportunity to be on Enterprise or something like that, but it didn't work out. That would have been amazing. If you watch Knight Rider, Michael Knight was in the new series for, like one shot or something like that. I think they would do it. And I know they have a story ready if the opportunity comes up. So I wonder if they're just dropping stuff in just in case. Just to keep the through line. I think if they never get Scott and they do 7 seasons and it's a wonderful show, there's always going to be that feeling of something missing, if that makes sense. I don't know. I think that maybe if they were going to go that far and the show became that much of a hit, like say they're in a season 4 or a season 5, you're talking 7 seasons. Like that's almost unheard of these days. Even for a Star Trek show, that's unheard of. It's not that kind of TV environment, but I can't imagine that they wouldn't at some point go back to New Mexico, to Stallion's Gate, to the old control room, and really delve into the roots, because a lot of what happens when you have shows like this that go on for a long time, they get progressively less viewers and you get more and more core fandom. And I feel like those that would stick with it to a season 5, to a season 6 are going to be us. And so why not go for broke and bring out all the stops of all of the, basically like the orgy of Easter eggs that you can make it Easter eggs.
Yeah. Make it all lower decks all the time, and just revel in the nostalgia factor. Do I think the show needs to go there? No. I think that this show, if it's doing anything, it's charting its own path. And I think it's doing it very well this season. Yeah. So very well. I think that it can go in completely opposite direction. But again, I'm a fan. So of course I would love to see them, maybe do both, Yeah. What about, do you think that they're doing it specifically for a reason, or do you think they're doing it just because they can? Both. I think they're doing it just in case that, because they know the story they want to tell if Scott does agree to come back at one point. So How do you know this? Where are you getting this info? I have friends. Okay. I make friends. But they have a story ready to go if he's ever ready to go. Right? So, but it's not yet. So I think they got to earn it. It's the first time hearing of it. Okay. Really? Really? We got to talk more often. Let's put it this way. You have friends. Matt has friends. I'm too busy editing to have friends. You're busy editing. 20 hours for the last after show. Okay. Just saying. This one, not so edited, not so much. But I think both. And I think it'll be okay. I think, I liken it to Star Trek Next Generation. The first season, I was always comparing it to the original series. After season 2, 3, I didn't connect them. They were two totally separate things. And I think it's kind of the same thing. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with, Star Trek being its own thing now. Like you can have a Star Trek fan that's completely different from my Star Trek fandom, but it's still equally valid, because they just have so much to pick and choose from now. So if Quantum gets there, so you're saying that you think Quantum could be, I know Deborah said this too, it could be its own universe with films and books and TV shows and the whole thing. But if they were going to do a second Quantum, not a revival, but a spinoff, what would you want to say? What would I want to see? That's interesting. I would want to see maybe the Evil Leaper stuff, but from their perspective. So they're somehow not the evil leapers. They actually have more information and they're doing the things they're doing to save everything instead of
because Ben's just trying to save that one person. He doesn't have an idea of the whole butterfly effect of everything he does, and this other project might, but that you might want to have it more disconnected even. So I don't know. So Ben doesn't see the whole butterfly effect, and this other leaping thing is trying to clean up the mess. But also, you wouldn't want it'd be too much Buffy Angel, like maybe to where it's too overlappy. So you might want something totally different, like say Stargate Universe was totally different than the Stargate or Stargate Atlantis because it was just in another galaxy completely or something.
All right. See now I don't know either of those shows, so I'm not really sure about the reference, but I guess you sort of answered the question that I had, because what I was thinking is if you're going to have like the quote evil leapers, but have them actually be like the Section 31 working behind the scenes to make sure everything goes smoothly, even though Ben can't see it. Then does the show become the quote evil leapers interacting with past leaps that we've already seen? Is it like a Back to the Future 2 kind of show?
Yeah, but that would be too difficult.
You don't see what's going. Is that too meta? Like,
yeah,
or is it a mix of that? Do they occasionally did they run into Ben once or twice every season? Is that how it works? Or Sam once or twice every season?
I know Frankie's involved somewhere. Frankie's going to be the leaper one day, just like they switch doctors. They'll switch leapers maybe, and Frankie will be the next one.
Who's Frankie?
The bartender that killed that killed Leaper X. That killed Leaper X.
Got you. Yes.
Yeah. So
I see.
2,000 subscribers. Do we want to take a moment to thank the Quantum Leap podcast community? And let's talk about our personal experience history, meeting all these great fans of Quantum Leap that have become our friends and like our family, some of them.
Well, I mean, you're my first.
Aww.
Albie, you were my first.
This brings up something I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
Christopher, will you be my hologram?
I have been this entire time, Albie.
Okay, cool. No, but think about it. I mean, when you first came on, I think you've told the story again, probably. Go listen to, if you like this, go listen to Oh Boy with Albert Birch, that guy. There was a great conversation there. I think I've listened to it like 10 times.
I have too. As a matter of fact, the last time we were driving home from out east, I had it on in the car. I made Laura listen to it.
Aww.
So I said, yeah.
So Laura knows.
I love that interview. I love talking to you.
It's great.
Yeah.
So you came on not too long after we started, I don't think. Like you came on a little bit after the first 4-hour show, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. You started doing radio sightings and stuff.
Yeah.
So what was it like coming into this fan community train that was already going, the Honeymoon Express to
think about it.
Infinity.
Yeah, think about it this way. I had already been somewhat involved in the fan community because of my book. Mm-hmm. So I had gone to a few cons as a guest. I'd gotten to meet fans, but I didn't know how to be a fan. Like I was still like not much into fan stuff. I'd been to a couple of cons because they had a big one here on Long Island called Icon at Stony Brook, where I went to school.
Con!
And I would walk. And I would walk around that thing like, I don't know what to do. So it wasn't until I got involved in the Quantum Leap fandom community that I got to understand how you actually move in the fandom world and how it all works. You don't just go to the dealer's room and maybe go see a movie or a panel and then go home. You actually interact with believe it or not, it took me years to learn how to do that. So, I thank Quantum Leap for that, because I was thrust into a position of actually having to speak to people because I was there as maybe a panelist or a guest because I had written the book. And then, that kind of primed me to seek stuff out. Plus, this right here, maybe not this one, but the fact that podcasts existed. I had no idea what a podcast was. And then I started listening to a show called Radiolab, and that opened up the universe of podcasting to me. So I think that really, that's why I say when I point to you, when you say what's your experience with fandom and all that, I mean, yes, my book tangentially, but I was still sort of like a guest, sort of looking into that world. And then I feel like when Brian invited me to the Leap Back convention, that was the first time I really felt like I was part of a broader community, not just like a visitor, not just like an interloper, because there were so many people there, and some people who I'd met at East Leap in Jersey, and I got to meet Scott, and I got to be on a panel like in a giant room with a ton of other people. So it was the first time like I connected into the bigger network of stuff. But that was so singular because it was that one con, and then I went home, and then it was done. And honestly, I kind of forgot all about my fandom until I started listening to you. And now here we are. It's like, 12:30 at night on a Friday, and I'm talking to you about Quantum Leap.
So what was it like going from walking the dog, listening to the Quantum Leap podcast, to staying up late every night editing the Quantum Leap podcast?
It was like the fulfillment of all of my worst and best habits come to light. I mean, I love the sound of my own voice. I love to have opinions about things, and I love to run stuff. I love to be like the guy in charge. So if you're going to host a podcast, you can't do any better. And, Quantum Leap is my favorite show. So it's just a matter of saying, hey, if I have to do this, thrust it upon me. Let me talk about Quantum Leap for hours on end and be the one who edits it and all that. But at the same time, it's time consuming and it can be exhausting. And sometimes I get fatigued. Like, I love watching the new show. I'm thrilled to bits that we have the hiatus coming up because, man, I'm tired. It's just a lot.
It is a lot of work. It's like a full-time job. Yeah.
I know. Nobody wants to hear us talk about that, but I feel like...
But it's the best one to have, right?
But yeah, and here's the thing of it is, it's like we've been talking for over an hour now. It feels like we just got on mic. So it's not really work. It's fun. It's just, and I feel like that's where I find the most edification of going from listening to you guys talk while I was walking the dog by the river and, sort of down at a down part of my life and talking back to you as you were having thoughts with Heather and with Hayden and all that. So now I'm actually talking back to you. Like, we're actually having a conversation. I'm not just, it's not a one-way thing where I'm saying, but what about that? And now I can say to you, well, what do you mean by that? So to me, that's the best part of it. And I feel like that's been the biggest evolution. But I mean, how about you? Because you had it for a long time, and then, it went away for you for a little while, and you sort of handed it over to me. But now I feel like, and you can tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong, but
you're right.
The revival series seems to have reinvigorated you as well.
It did, because I associated the original series a lot with my original podcasting partner, and that didn't quite work out. So it was very difficult for me to think of one and not think of the other. And now with the new series, that's so far removed that I felt I can do it again. I can do what I love again without constantly feeling the sorrow that came with losing my podcasting partner. You've been through that. Right?
Yeah, not quite on the same level. No. I mean, I said, all right, I guess we're not doing that anymore. And then I went on to steal the Quantum Leap podcast out from under you.
You didn't have to pay a lawyer like $30,000 to separate the podcasting partners?
No, Albie, I didn't have to. I wanted to.
Okay.
No, I didn't have to do any of that. No, you're right about that. And when I look, actually, you say when you look back, you had some regret, you had some melancholy, you couldn't extricate one feeling from the other. I look back and I say thank you, because I was in a podcast, I had a good time, I had a good partner, we had a good rapport, but how many years was I going to talk about Stephen King? Like, I was sort of already done before even Castle Rock came on. I was a lapsed Stephen King fan to begin with. We had been doing a lot of Stephen King stuff, and I started to reread and to read stuff that I hadn't. And I wouldn't say that it was a reluctant fandom, because I had a good time doing it in the moment. but I haven't returned to anything Stephen King since Castle Rock ended, because it was a circumstance of being on Castle Rock. I've always been a Quantum Leap fan. I will always be. If this goes away, if you fire me tomorrow, I will still watch Quantum Leap as much as I can. I'll talk about it as much as I can. This is my bag. So that to me is the difference, you know?
I think we talked about every single word in that Stephen King book, 11/22/63.
Jesus Christ. How many hours did we do on just the book alone?
I am a crazy producer, right? Yeah, I'm a crazy producer. Let's do a 3-hour show about every 40-minute episode. And we did a 3-hour show on every chapter of the book. And we did break it down. The book had sections. So we broke it down into the sections of the book. That was the way I decided to approach it. I think one of my favorite moments is when we actually got the person who read the audiobook to be our like announcer for the show. So like if you had listened to the story through the audiobook,
that was all Skip's doing.
Yeah, he had good connections.
Why am I blanking on that guy's name? Why am I blanking on that dude's name?
I used to remember because I loved his voice when I listened to that book. But that was one of the cool
Anyway,
moments.
go back and listen. You can't go back and listen. You can go back and listen to 11/22. As far as I know, you were talking about we were missing some episodes of QLP. There's one lost episode of 11/22
if anyone out there has it,
can find.
Please send it to us. Yes, we need it.
I think it was the was it the Time Loops episode? It was the one that had the Jackie Kennedy interview with the woman who played Jackie.
Her. Yes. I love that one.
No, this is interesting to nobody. It's just like, you remember that thing with that guy and that girl? And you know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. I'm sorry, 2,000 listeners. You have no idea what the hell we're talking about.
Meanwhile, like when you look at it a week later, it'll be like the most viewed part. It'll be this part. So, but if anybody has that missing episode, please send it to us. That's important. And
so you got to show me how to upload things up to the Internet Archive, because I actually have a couple of old Castle Rock fans asking me, can I get the old episodes? I have them all here archived, but the website went away years ago. So you can't download them anymore.
I think that has to do with it not being a barren space production.
What is it? Sour grapes?
That's one sour raisin. That's it.
All right.
You guys were like, we're gonna do a show without you. Peace. And I was like, okay, you guys have fun.
You know what? It wasn't, honestly, and it wasn't even conscious. It wasn't even consideration. We just decided to keep on going. And I feel like at that point you had been, I'm just gonna lay it out flat.
Mm-hmm.
That was at the height of everything that was going wrong with you, man.
Oh, true.
We were throwing like 7-hour shows on you. Your marriage was in trouble. You were always stressed and out of your mind. We were going to keep on just throwing that on you? Come on, stop it.
Oh, you did it for me.
I mean,
thank you.
Yeah. What I'm saying is I feel like it was sort of like a natural evolution of where we all were at that point. And guess what? It didn't last.
No.
So what we do, maybe 13 episodes of Castle Rock before Skip pulled the curtain down on us.
I never listened, so I don't know.
Oh, you're a liar. You listened to every episode.
To what? To Castle Rock?
Yeah.
I didn't even know you started it. I knew you were gonna start it. Yeah, I haven't heard it. Even though I love Skip the Fur. Why didn't I listen to it? I don't know. Didn't the series get canceled before it started or something?
No, it did have one season and then it got canceled. But we never made it to the series. So we were in the middle. We did Creep Show and Creep Show 2.
Was that movies?
Because what we were doing is if you saw the Castle Rock trailer, they had different touchstones of different Stephen King properties that they were going to be incorporating into that series, which was going to be a broader series based in like a Stephen King universe. And so based on those touchstones in that trailer, we decided to explore the individual properties before the show came on. So I think we started with It. And that was, like a 4-show extravaganza because the book was so long. And then I think the first movie had come out. So we talked about the first movie. And then we went to, I believe, Salem's Lot. And we did a bunch of Salem's Lot stuff. We did like 4 Salem's Lot shows because there was the book, there was the TV series, like a TV movie, and then the actual movie, So a bunch of that. And then I think we did Creep Show, and then we were going to go to Dolores Claiborne, and that's when the axe fell.
So you didn't even get to the series yet, right?
No, and by the time, and it's great because I didn't have Hulu, and the funny thing is Skip watched the first few episodes of the series, and he said, "Thank God we didn't do this show because
good,
this series sucks," So I'll be.
It was all meant to be.
I want to say in front of our 2,000 viewers, I apologize if you felt slighted. It wasn't even like any kind of conscious deliberation. It was just sort of where we were, and we were just firing on the Skip the Fur high, and we were just doing our thing. And it wasn't even like, let's cut you out. It's like, let's just keep on rolling, And at that point, I had been, editing 1122 enough to know that I could edit Castle Rock by myself without burdening you with it. And you taught me how to, put it out. I think we were still on your server, weren't we? No, we had our own website at that point. So we had our own server. That's right. I went with my friend Matt. So, and also listen, there were, rose-colored glasses. That's also the time when your entire server was crashing down around you. It was just like it wasn't exactly the best of times, It
was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
There was a lot of stuff going on that was, working against us.
It was a tumultuous time, but you got to admit, 11/22/63 was one of the best things we ever did. I think. Besides,
best thing I ever did because it got me into podcasting. Like without that, I never would be here now. So,
and it was
phenomenal.
We got to go to Dealey Plaza and meet.
Yeah, we did.
Who did we meet? What was his name?
Oh, the guy who was on the back of the limo. And again, just like I'm blanking on the actress, but this is a real guy. It's funny because I was just talking about him. I was just talking about him last week. Yeah.
It was the guy that Sam leaped into to save Jackie, right?
Yes, exactly.
And we met him in real life.
Clint Hill.
I think that's the only real life leaper. Is that what they're called? Leapies? People that get
leapy.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the only real life leapy I met.
Oh, that you met.
Was there any other real life leapies? I don't know. Lee Harvey Oswald, but I don't think he's with us anymore. And he's not with us anymore.
Lee Harvey Oswald. Elvis Presley's dead.
So I think we met.
It's easier to leap into a dead person.
Oh, wait. Huh? I think Dr. Ruth is still alive.
Yeah, she's still alive.
So there's still a chance to meet one more.
Maybe. We've been trying to get her on the show.
Been trying. We got a lot of yeses and maybes.
When we get to our 3,000th, that'll be the 3,000 subscriber show. Yes, Dr. Ruth.
So according to our data,
better subscribe quick.
According to our data, 70% of our viewers aren't subscribed. So why not? Why won't you subscribe and be one of our subscribers? Are you subscribed?
Please do.
Are you subscribed, Chris? I'm subscribed.
I am subscribed. Yeah, actually, I log on as us, so I don't know if I'm subscribed because my only YouTube ID is the Quantum Leap Podcast. I told you I'm not good at this stuff. All I know how to do is podcast. I don't know the video.
You're good at making shows, though. You're an amazing showrunner.
I'd say you're better than I am. You know how to do the video stuff.
Your favorite moment from all of your work on Quantum Leap Podcast? Give me some of them. Think of it. The good memories.
Meeting you in person.
Oh, that was great, wasn't it? I got a hug. I wanted a hug, but I went for a handshake, and you said, "Bring it in here" or something like that, and I got a hug. I was so happy.
Sounds like me.
Yeah,
sounds
so
like
happy.
me.
Yeah.
No, I mean, of the podcast, no, obviously becoming friends with you, Matt and Allison, 100%. That's my favorite thing about this whole thing. My favorite thing about the fandom is the fact that it allowed me to become a published author, which was always my biggest dream since I was, a tween, since I was like a young kid, 9, 10, 11 years old. I always wanted to be a writer. So I got to write a book because of Quantum Leap. And I got to meet, Scott Bakula, Don Belisario, Deborah Pratt. I mean, it's been an amazing journey for me personally. But I feel like all of it's led up to this right here, right now. Does that make sense? And I know that sounds like I'm blowing smoke up your ass, but again, we're just shooting the shit. We've been talking for now almost an hour and a half. And it's just fun. It's just,
very fun.
This is what you would do even if you weren't on mic. And that's what's the best thing about it.
Yeah, that's what we did a half hour before I hit record right here.
Exactly. I know.
Yeah.
This is just the part that's recorded. So, okay, I'm going to turn that around on you. What is your very favorite moment of this entire QLP journey?
Well, the one that stands out is talking to Scott. That was, Nerd Boy's dream. But I'd say more than that, that was like a milestone kind of feeling. And it's still like a little unreal. And I still feel a little embarrassed because I was asking about, towards the end, like how the accelerator worked and different Star Trek questions about the Enterprise ship and stuff, the NX-01. He's like, I think I got to go back to shooting now on my new show. I didn't ask him anything about New Orleans NCIS thing. But I think more than that, it's the friends I've made. Not only everybody that's volunteered and worked with us on the podcasts, because that's amazing. Because I mean, so many people I text on a daily basis or close to that are just from this Quantum Leap podcast little community we built. And I consider them all, really close friends. And we all talk all the time. And it's let me go to do things like go to Dallas and Colorado. I went to, I think 3 or 4 times. I'm not sure, to hang out with Juan, and that wouldn't have never happened without the podcast. And I got to meet you and friends with Matt and friends with Allison and friends with Hayden, and there's people all over the world, and it's just great. And we all speak the same language.
Yeah. And it's almost like when you think about the bartender at the end of Mirrors, you think you've
Bruce
only
McGill?
changed a few lives. Yeah. The good that has touched others and those lives others. You've done a lot of good. And I think about it, like my other big online family podcasting community is the Cosmic Potato Network with Sean Ray and John Irons, and now John has come around to be on the
Love John
after show. And there's a whole cadre of people over there that I know, that I speak to daily. I'm on their shows a lot, and it keeps growing. Now Neek is part of our group, and she does the For All Mankind podcast, and her commercials on the Quantum Leap podcast.
I watch that show.
It's just but because we were doing 1122, Sean liked the 1122 show, and so we appeared on his show, and I've been friends with him ever since.
Was I ever on that show?
And so
I think so. Once, maybe.
I think you maybe once. Yeah, maybe. I think you were.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, maybe one of the Star Trek ones.
Yeah.
Because they were doing the disco shows at that point.
Or they were interviewing people about their Star Trek fandom, maybe.
Were you on Prime Direction?
Maybe. I don't know. Usually
I was on one of those.
When somebody asks if they want me on a podcast, I usually say yes, depending.
Yeah, Sean has been rerunning some of the Prime Direction stuff. I'll ask him if you were on. You would have to tell me. I know I was on. I listened to mine, and I can't stand my.
I just follow links and say, okay, what show is this? What am I doing? What am I talking about?
But that's what I mean. It's just so it's not just it's also sort of like the side benefits of being part of the Quantum Leap podcast and everything that's grown out of that. This is the kernel of it, but there's so much more floating around, satellite stuff, and even people that are on our Patreon site that support the show, like Tom and Morgan and Charles, and the ones that have been around forever. It's just like it's just so many levels of people that are now just sort of in our orbit, and it would never have been that way,
I got to shout out Tom Quinn. When I was going through that difficulty, he was one of the people that reached out, because it wasn't a public thing, but like if you were involved and knew about us, you kind of knew what was going on. And he reached out because he had been through a similar situation. And he was one of the people that like kept checking in on me. Are you all right?
Oh.
You doing good? How's it going? It's not going to be like this forever. It'll get better, and he was really encouraging.
Awesome.
So great guy. All the people in our community are such great people. And I don't know if you got a chance to read my thing that I wrote for Matt's new book yet, because I know you're editing.
No, I haven't yet. No,
but part of it was I was
at some point.
Yeah. Well, now the deadline's on you, because even though I waited way too long, but hopefully it all works out. But when I was writing that, and I was going through the process of thinking of everything like pretty much in chronological order, you'll have to do that and fact check me. But I was thinking, what if I didn't decide that day to make a Quantum Leap podcast? There'd be others by now, because I know when the shows kept getting longer and longer in between shows, that's when the newer Quantum Leap podcast started coming out, and I was like, "Oh crap, we got to get back to doing what we do."
We got competition now.
Yeah, friendly competition.
But we're still the first, and
Yeah.
I feel like we at least have still a sizable audience base.
Yeah,
that
I
has
think
stayed
people.
with us. Also, I'd like to say thank you, to people who are watching now, who have always been, came on with you and actually, put up with the transition and stayed with us, because it's in many ways two completely different shows, but we've managed to hold on to quite a bit of the same fan. Like the Venn diagram is very, it's not narrow. It's like there's still.
There are some that only like the audio podcast, some that only like the video show, and but most of it overlaps, and they're the same people that watch like Fate's Wide Wheel and the other shows too. So it's the Quantum Leap fan community. But yeah, thank you guys so much for subscribing, for watching every week, and it's the more views we get, the more likes we get, the more subscribers we get. I think the better it feels about those nights that we could be watching a movie or doing something, but we're editing. It makes it worth it, right?
It does. Actually, the having that complete show is the reward in itself. When it's done and you can put it out there, you get such a feeling of accomplishment and such a feeling of community, and you just hope that what you're saying will resonate with the people who are listening, and that they have a good time hearing your thoughts, and it helps them formulate and, give their own opinions about it, even if it's a one-way conversation like I used to have with you,
Little did you know all you had to do is
process.
Little did you know all you had to do was get in contact with me, and you could just talk to me.
Yeah. Right.
So,
well, I, for one, am glad of that. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think it's been a really good experience overall. I think like you were indicating earlier, we couldn't do what we do now unless we had that 10 years behind us. It's like that overnight success that took 10, 12 years to get to.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. It's just crazy when you think about where you are. We're talking to every main cast member of Quantum Leap. How surreal is that?
It's insane. And it's writers and producers. And the day we talked to a Ghostbuster, I was like, nerd cred. Like, I'm not looking for nerd cred, but I got nerd cred now, Ernie Hudson. I was helping Ernie Hudson set up his headphones and making sure his microphone's working, and tell him what we're going to be doing. And it's Ernie Hudson, I'm
like, woohoo,
great, yeah. So totally worth it. I think totally worth it. Sometimes the best jobs aren't rewarded with money because I don't pay anybody, including myself. We might get new microphones or new cameras here and there, but I think that's a work expense. I don't know.
Pretty much.
It's totally worth it. So what are your hopes and dreams? Are you going to be doing this if there's 7 seasons of this new show? Are you gonna hang in there for another 5 years?
You know what they say. How do you eat an elephant?
One
bite at a time, man. One bite at a time. I don't want to think about another 7 years. I want to think about another maybe 5 episodes and then see where we're at the end of that. That's all. But yeah, no, I mean, in the moments, it seems daunting because it's a lot of time, but I couldn't be happier, with where we are as a show, with where we are as a family, and with everything that's going on right now. So let's ride that lightning as long as we can, brother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just I want to be grateful and thankful to everybody, because without the listeners, without the contributors, without the volunteers, without the producers, writers, directors, directors of photographies, editors, stars, guest stars, what would we be doing? So I just thank you to everybody. That's great. And hopefully we can do it some more.
God willing.
All right. So if you like this conversation, check out some Trekaholic. Me and Chris have done quite a few episodes about different Star Trek stuff. If you're into there's no Alba-fur. Is it Alba-fur? Christabee? Do we have a hashtag? Crispy?
Crispy.
Is that her? Crispy. Okay. Yeah, I'll take it. Crispy. That's our hashtag Crispy. So if you like hashtag Crispy, spelled differently, right? I think so.
With a B.
Check those out. And
like Frisbee. Crispy.
I like it. Check those out. Like, subscribe, turn on all notifications, go to Patreon. What are the levels on Patreon? It's what, $2 a month or something like that?
Oh, you can as little. Don't you listen to your own Patreon ad for as little as $1 a month?
Oh yeah, that one.
Yes.
You can save a kid somewhere else or fund a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Played the piano. I know you think Rennie played that piano, but it was me.
I really thought it was Rennie. That's why I thought you put it on there. Anyway, see, we're learning something.
Good or bad? I was just like, we need copyright free music, so I kept playing the piano until something sounded good. But it kind of works.
I play it every show.
Okay.
It's good enough.
So we're going to wait here for 10 seconds while everybody hits that subscribe button, okay? 10 seconds. You're out of there. Ring the bell. Okay, ring the bell for notifications. Subscribe, like, check out the Patreon. There's some free stuff on there, right? We have some free followers. And there's the book club members. They get a bookmark, right?
Yep.
Different things.
And Leapers get the exclusive bonus content. Oh Boy members get interviewed, and producers get credit on the show.
Tell me about the latest cool bonus content. I know we've been working on the main series right now, but I think
so. The latest bonus content. Yeah, the latest bonus content that dropped was an interview with a listener named Dana Bias, one of the Oh Boy interviews, and it's sort of like what I did with you. And we also have in the can now for months, because I've just been sitting on it. Allison, Matt, and I did a review of Scott's movie Mean Streak. So that's one where he says a lot. So we're putting that out. I'm going to be working on that after we're done with Nomads. So.
Okay. I have another project coming up after we're done with Nomads, and I'm excited about. And there are hints around if you want to check it out. And hopefully that comes to something. I pretty much stopped doing Star Trek reviews, because I figured if we're not doing TNG Season 8, we're not going to be doing anything else, because we would have done it then. I think we did one episode, right?
Of what?
Picard Season 3. I think we did the first episode.
Did we? I think you and Matt did. I feel like you and Matt did. Did we?
I think it was you.
Just like you don't remember if you did the Prime Direction. Okay, if we did a Picard show, why not? I don't know.
What else do we do on there? We
do a lot of stuff.
we played Star Trek Borg on there. We played Star Trek Klingon on there. We got stuck on a part of a game for a half hour. That's fun to watch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's when you can hit that 10-second thing over and over and over again.
That's the best content ever made. So there's a lot of stuff. So join our Facebook group.
Check it out.
Check us out on Instagram.
Share, subscribe.
Like, share, subscribe. Thank you, everybody. Every 2013 of you currently right now. Thank you guys so much. And I guess
Gracias.
For the Quantum Leap podcast, old and new, I'm Albie.
I'm Chris.
Keep leaping.
Keep leaping. There you go. Perfect. You stuck the landing. Now end it.
Sometimes.
End it,
End it now?
End it.
Okay, now.
End it.
No, you hang up.
Now.
No, you hang
hang
up.
up.